Now that we see the Q identity has been compromised by a psyop, and a psyop is in charge, we got to just start coming forward with much more of our own deep source information, which I've been filtering through QAnon, basically utilizing it as a vehicle so that information we independently had could be blended into the QAnon story. That's been largely my methodology in the decodes I've been doing. So I think we need to just quit that and go directly with our own sources and our own intelligence information, because right now we're at a critical point. This is the point at which I believe the Trump administration is positioning to fire Mueller or put Mueller under criminal investigation himself for the Uranium One cover-up that he did, which I think was criminal. And Trump is about to launch into a serious counterattack, in which I believe Sessions has to be fired, Rosenstein has to be fired. And I think what this signals, Alex, is we ought to go more directly even now, even ramp it up with our own internal intelligence information that we can share with the public. I mean, not anything classified, nothing that is, top secret. I'm not interested in dealing in classified information, but the own interpretations and directions we're getting pointed in by the intelligence sources you and I both work with almost on an everyday basis.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
QAnon put out a lot of exclusive info that was accurate, made a lot of predictions that were accurate up front. Then a lot of things started to be said that weren't exactly accurate or didn't happen. And then I noticed mainstream media and online, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube wouldn't block you when you were promoting that. And I thought, that's a little suspicious. But I talked to people I know in the military and others. They said, no, we know some of the people on those boards using that name. There's only 5 or 6 people. But then it started getting a little bit weird. And they said, no, somebody's hijacked it and basically hacked it and is using it and is now putting out disinformation. But separately, people like Zach, super good source. I know his full name, who he is. We got a lot of other big sources in the military. I mean, I've got sources, I'm not going to say from what units or groups, but the most elite, of the most elite, highest level, we have it. I'm going to leave it at that. CIA, Dev Group, Delta Force, you name it, all of it, whole 9 yards, because they're patriots. And they know what this country is in right now, where we're going. And Dr. Corsi's written 3 #1 New York Times bestsellers. He's changed elections. He's got amazing sources. He got told by the White House 6 months ago, hey, we like QAnon. But now that's not the case. And so I was on the phone this morning and talked to some folks who are out playing golf with people that have been involved in QAnon. They say, hey, that's been taken over. We're unable to even post anymore. That's not us anymore. And then Corsi was right on the same line 2 days ago in private conversations we had saying, hey, it's been compromised. Then I didn't even talk about it on air. Then I was separately told this by QAnon. So I'm going to say again, I've talked to QAnon. There's only about 5, 6 people that have actually been posting. I've talked to QAnon, and they're saying QAnon is no longer QAnon. So, Dr. Corsi, tell us about your angle on this.
Well, it's very similar to yours, I think, Alex. You're correct. I think the White House for a long time did support QAnon. I've been following it since December. And then periodically there would be cyber attacks and it would shift. It was clear that the QAnon identity was under attack. The real shift occurred really on April 28th. That's when I really began concluding that QAnon was now completely hijacked by a psyop operation that had hijacked the identity and was starting to publish disinformation designed to destroying the movement and dividing the movement. The posts changed in quality and their content. We started to get attacks on people profiteering, making money. You can't make any money on the patriot movement if you.
So we started to see a fog of confusion attacking the platforms. Yes.
And no leader. I mean, first of all, no leader like QAnon. Why would you attack prominent spokespeople in the movement, attacking me for writing a book and making money on writing a book? And so I began to get then just inundated with troll type emails and postings on Twitter attacking me for profiteering even though I've been one of the most prominent supporters of Q, the whole movement began to turn on
And by
me.
the way, your book is about the conspiracy to overthrow the president with the fake Russiagate, nothing to do with QAnon, even though there's some in the book. So that's how the distraction began. So the identity got grabbed. You, one of the people promoting the original real QAnon, began getting demonized as the public spokesperson, basically, QAnon. I mean, that's what you'd become. And so now we go the rest of the way. But I was told months ago it was compromised. So there's a civil war going on in this country between the Tories, those that are with the globalists, the big robber barons, the internationalists, who want to end sovereignty and end the free market for the general public, and nationalists like Trump, who says he wants a victory for the world. He wants world peace. He wants economic development. He doesn't want a strategy of tension, a strategy of destabilization, but a very good, pragmatic strategy of development. We haven't had that since really Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex. Kennedy was in over his head, somebody that Dr. Corsi knew when he was a youngster, and they killed him. But if you read the 45 secret goals of communism leaked to Congress in 1963 that we've just posted to Infowars.com, you will see that communism is an instrument of the robber baron class to sabotage society and to sabotage culture. That's on Infowars.com right now. Please get it out to everybody. Now, going back to Dr. Corsi, the reason this is important, obviously, is QAnon was a good source. I talked to my military folks. They ferreted into it. They actually know some of the people involved with it. It was people acting on their own. They weren't giving out anything secret, but they were showing that they knew what was about to happen on some issues to get credibility. My concern was that could have been a setup to get people's confidence and then sit there and put out a bunch of disinfo. But then I talked to some others. They said, no, overall, those are some good people. But how they do it is they go into the 4chan, they hack it, they take down the links, they put out a fog, then they start attacking people that had been supporting the real QAnon to basically just destroy the entire thing and discredit it. And that's why I was always saying I'll focus on it, but my main focus is just public intelligence, human intelligence, the major trends, what we know is unfolding. And we know there is a war going on inside the deep state. So the narrative being put out by QAnon before was one of hope and truth and very, very positive. Now it's one of infighting and destruction. So I just think we should recap what's happened, get into the latest, and then basically stick a fork in the avatar of QAnon. It is now an overrun disinformation fount, Dr. Jerome Corsi.
Well, I agree with everything you've said, Alex. This is a now completely compromised source. The psyop that took over QAnon, and I see now, I think there's signs of NASA being involved at this point. But the board, the 8chan board has now been overrun with, I think, increasingly CIA operatives posing as trolls, posing disinformation. Certainly the attack I've gotten in the last 48 hours after saying that QAnon was compromised on my Twitter feed and my emails have just been obviously hate-generated psyop operations.
That's right. This isn't just a few kids with hot pockets in their mother's basement playing video games. This is them taking control of the symbol of QAnon and now weaponizing it.
And the goal seems to be that the psyop taking a hold of it is going to destroy the movement. That what they're basically saying, think to divide. In other words, you can't make a profit. Well, clearly that's, they attacked me for writing a book and profiteering on the Patriot movement. Well,
and by the way, what is in the Clinton Foundation, not their new bigger one, but the original Library Foundation documents that Judicial Watch and WorldNet Daily got, over 70,000 pages. They said the #1 thing is don't let Christians, conservatives, or nationalists ever build an economy. The #1 rule is call them conspiracy theorists, and the #2 rule is always attack profiting. Don't let them create an economy.
Precisely, and that's what QAnon has done. Now, what leader divides their own followers by this kind of a comment? And besides, look at President Trump yesterday in Indiana. He said, let's make wealth great again in America.
Listen, off record, Corsi, I told you through an Army Special Operations source who you talked to, don't say any first names either, who's been in, the most elite Army units, multi-group units there are, that we told you months ago that it was being compromised and that it had been compromised and they were going to operate like they were good until they built the movement to try to take control of it. So it's already destroyed. I mean, did we not a few months ago on a phone call in here?
Yes, you warned me on this several times.
You understand that source you were talking to has been...
Yes, I did. It was credible, and it was a real source.
Well, that source is what we got sources all over the place, bigger than the original QAnon people. I know I was on the phone this morning with the real people.
Right. Well, I mean, the real people have been identified. I had a pretty good idea who they were at the very beginning. As I went into it, the identification became clearer and clearer. I mean, the group that originally put this together were military intelligence and very loyal to General Flynn. And the goal was to, provide enough of the background.
And that's exactly right. And that was the group out playing golf this morning. That's exactly right.
And that group, I think, is the group that now there's some background noise that'll go away.
That's okay. We don't mind the lawnmower. It's kind of soothing.
I got lawnmowers going on, and nothing I can do about it at the moment. The key element here is now you're looking at something that can be generated by artificial intelligence. And there's no reason it can't be generated by artificial intelligence. These are just now formulaic, all open source. They can be decoded by open source. So you get a few inflammatory statements, promising boom, boom, boom. We're going to have these big developments, and a bunch of cryptic questions, and a few open source references. And that's all Q is. And then buried inside it are now attacks, which are basically socialistic New World Order attacks intended to divide the movement and to drive out of the movement anybody who's a real patriot, anybody who has supported President Trump and opposed the New World Order. That's the goal of the psychops, is to take over the movement and divide it and then destroy it.
We just put on screen the London Guardian saying exactly that and admitting that they've had for decades already these automated systems, not artificially intelligent in the classical sense, but automated. Now they're artificially intelligent. And what you're saying is they load in a few pages of rumors, of disinfo, of keywords. Then they have Facebook and Twitter and Google push that, so everybody starts pushing it because they don't get censored when they push it. They go, wow, my post is going viral. Well, it's because it's disinfo the establishment wants out. Whatever the establishment pushes and force feeds, is bad. Whatever it's trying to contain and block and control, is good, or going in that direction. And so I knew going back a couple months ago that suddenly they weren't blocking QAnon as they were before. They were suddenly force-feeding it. So I did a few tests where I would talk about QAnon, and it would suddenly get force-fed millions of views instead of blocking us and shadow banning. So then I made some phone calls, and they said, oh, yeah, it's definitely not the same people. It was a group of folks before. They've taken over the identities. They've blocked them. They've basically penetrated 4chan. They're in control of those boards and at the management level, and are force-feeding these false avatars. And so I'm glad we're in agreement on this, because I talked to the folks finally this morning, and they said, yes, that is indeed what is going on, and indeed what is happening. So we can just stick a fork in it and move on and believe nothing that comes out of the avatar QAnon. That is now synonymous with disinformation.
Correct. And it's going to get worse, because the movement now controlled by psychops is going to do everything they can to further divide the Donald Trump supporters. Those who are believing it, who want a intelligence source internally that they think they can trust, are just going to get fooled and misled. Even the photographs are largely, posting a photograph of Singapore, well, that's not intelligence. Everybody knows it was announced by the White House yesterday that President Trump is going to meet with North Korea in Singapore. So we're going to go from, some good intelligence that was legitimately dropped by the QAnon identity originally, and I think even through April 28th, and now it's 100% co-opted. The attack on the board was even reported. It was documented. The board administrator still doesn't believe he's been compromised or hijacked or cyber attack. But I assure you, between the NASA, the NSA, and the CIA, anything on a computer can be compromised and hijacked, and people using it may not even know. That's how effective a PSYOP operation can be.
And again, 15 years ago, they were called sock puppets or bullhorns. The U.S. has them, Israel has them, everybody has them. And again, you load in the data you want, and then it goes out and pushes it as AI. Other people then join it who are real. Then it recruits them as moderators in a internet movement, just like you do with your own website. And then they roll those out weaponized now with real people, just like the Russian bots that the Democrats paid for to have protests outside of Trump Tower that Michael Moore attended last year when he had been elected president. Michael Moore didn't know that he was at a Russian bot-funded event. So no wonder Hillary said it was Russians, because 80% of it was funded by the Democrats, because there's a bunch of troll farms you can hire in different countries. So there were Russian bots. They were just working for the Democrats. And Russian bots were able to then create a big protest with over 1,000 people in front of Trump Tower with even Michael Moore not knowing. That's the power of AI.
And what they do also is, you know, you've got the ability here to do a program, a psychoc program, where you ask these questions. And so it says loyal, disloyal, and, you know, these different dichotomies. And you punch the button, and it generates out cryptic questions for you. I mean, the whole thing.
Yeah, so they've basically created a little mind control video game, choose your own adventure thing that they're manipulating people with. And so folks should know that. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Anything anonymous is always dangerous. Look, there's so much disinfo, so many bots that these big mega corporations are throwing at us. We just have to know Americana, free market, Christianity, free open society, and promote that. Anytime you get into all this anonymous stuff, unless it's sources that you've known for years and years, like Infowars, that then has sources that we know the identity of, that we know have given us good information in the past. And still, you can get set up down the road on that. But that's why Infowars is so attacked, because the public trust it. And say hi to CENTCOM. They got us on a big projector in one of the meeting rooms in there right now. Some folks are watching Dr. Corsi. They're very interested in this whole QAnon thing as well. I just hope we can move on from it, because, you know, we have so many anonymous sources that are real, that are documented, not anonymous to us. And then the media just ignores it. But then the way they pick up QAnon, you could see where the trap was going. So, Dr. Corsi, any other points you'd like to add?
Well, I think that now that we see the Q identity has been compromised by a psyop, and, you know, a psyop is in charge, we ought to just start coming forward with much more of our own deep source information, which, you know, I've been filtering through QAnon, basically utilizing it as a vehicle so that information we independently had could be blended into the QAnon story. That's been largely my methodology in the decodes I've been doing. So I think we need to just quit that and go directly with our own sources and our own intelligence information, because right now we're at a critical point. This is the point at which I believe the Trump administration is positioning to fire Mueller or put Mueller under criminal investigation himself for the Uranium One cover-up that he did, which I think was criminal. And Trump is about to launch into a serious counterattack, in which I believe Sessions has to be fired, Rosenstein has to be fired. And I think what this signals, I think, Alex, is we ought to go more directly even now, even ramp it up with our own internal intelligence information that we can share with the public. I mean, not anything classified, nothing that is, you know, top secret. I'm not interested in dealing in classified information, but the own interpretations and directions we're getting pointed in by the intelligence sources you and I both work with almost on an everyday basis.
Well, that was my issue with QAnon the whole time. Some of the stuff was accurate, some of it was good. A lot of it was just publicly available information. And then I had the hostage rescue team tell me he went to the Middle East. He had a woman in there for days before. There was Antifa paraphernalia. It was a gun-running deal gone bad. Saudi Arabia was having a big conference there. We believe they used the fact that he'd sold them guns before to meet to see the weapons. Then they used those to set him up in part of a Saudi civil war. And then months later, that's basically the facts that have come out. I mean, wow, really have sources in the hostage rescue team. Really have sources in the CIA. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't mean like pencil pushers either. And I'm talking about direct action, covert action, all that. And they want the country to come back. They know the globalists have hijacked the nation. They know the communist Chinese. Dick Cheney came out yesterday and said, communist China's the threat. They've infiltrated us. They're the enemy, not the Russians. And not because he's a Russophile. The Chinese are the problem, people. Go ahead, Dr. Corsi.
Well, and I think we've got information that has been extremely valuable. Now it's time to share directly. I mean, one of the things I see about QAnon, as soon as the embassy was going to be moved from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, as soon as President Trump decided to tear up the Iranian agreement, the anti-Semitism on the Q boards and me being hit with tweets and emails.
You know, I tell you what, can you come on? Can you come on the 4th hour day? This is so important to just go ahead and give the big. I know you got a lot of great sources to give us your intelligence dump. Can you do that?
Yeah, I'll be delighted to.
You're going to host the show then. Joel Gilbert will be fine. Joel Gilbert's normally hosting that, but you're gonna host the 4th hour. Dr. Jerome Corsi, 4th hour today.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
He goes to jail. He goes to jail. Lock him up.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Who are you, little fella? Come to show him where I am. Not nice.
Thought you couldn't hair press on nails because of all the active things you do? Recolored in 7 luscious hues. Just...
Our impulses are being redirected. We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. These signals being sent through...
There is a war on for your mind. Our signal has reached more than 2 billion people. But the enemy is now aware of the fact that we've broken through and are moving to block us on every front. The only way you're going to be able to see our videos and articles is to visit Infowars.com itself and hand share the videos and articles to everyone you know. The signal is getting through and is exposing and defeating the globalist when we're able to get it through. But they're admittedly expanding their operations to suppress us, so only you can boost the signal. Only you can defeat the globalist. We're in this together. I salute you for your work, and I ask all of you to redouble your efforts.
There is a signal broadcast every second of every day through our television sets.
I'm just trying to warn you folks, the television is a giant LED weapon system. It's so advanced.
Shows it to him, comes right back, go one way and come back in the other and get in the air. His hometown, northwest of Belgrade. And tonight, their family, his family, is watching in the living room at home. And one of the great new technologies that we have here at ESPN is that we can look at you in your house through your TV.
You know what? You got a little courage. Stand up for yourself.
Waging war on corruption. It's Alex Jones, coming to you live from the front lines of the Infowar.
Fueling your body is hard work. That's why we've introduced the Infowars Life Daily Digestive Pack to help you fuel it right. Combine Flora Life Everyday Maintenance and Carnivore to help you fuel your gut and body and take advantage of the powerful nutrients you receive. There's no better way to power your body. Flora Life is a powerful probiotic supplement with 20 of the most potent clinically studied probiotic strains. When paired with Carnivore, our incredible enzyme formula that helps you break down nutrients, these formulas fuel your gut and your body to help you fight toxins and stay fueled all day. These incredible formulas can help keep your body in tip-top shape in the fight against stress, age, and outside toxins. There's no better time to try Flora Life and Carnivore to see how well they can support your body. Don't miss out on the chance to fuel your body and support recovery. Try the Infowars Life Daily Digestive Pack today.